Ben McKee, Patrick Brown, Go Vols 24/7 here in Neyland Stadium following Tennessee's second scrimmage of fall camp. Patrick, sounds like the offense picked it up quite a bit and evened things out with the defense, at least early on in the scrimmage. Better play along the offensive line, I think it's fair to say, and Joe Milton and Nico Iamaleava both benefited from that. Joe finding Ramel Keaton for a touchdown at one point, Nico finding Caleb Webb, who has been very impressive, and we can touch on him in a minute. But it sounds like Joe continues to impress. Coach Heupel raved about his accuracy when he just met with the media, said that he doesn't know that he's thrown an interception this camp, which says quite a bit. And not that Joe's ever necessarily been a bad decision maker. It's always been about the accuracy, and Heupel talked about his accuracy being very good this camp, was very good today. But it does sound like when Joe receives protection, Joe does a good job.
Yeah, and Josh Heupel said that the pass protection with the first unit on the offensive line, which has been an ever-changing unit, they're still working some guys in and out of that group, but has been pretty good. I think the big thing today was since these receivers were out there for maybe a little bit longer, Heupel said they got in, got out. I think the offense took its first drive right down the field and scored with some good plays there. Jalen Wright had a good run. I think McAllen Castles got involved a little bit as well, and Joe Milton was really dialed in. So you get him as playmakers out there. I think he's more comfortable than maybe he was in the last scrimmage where they were really cautious with those guys. So they got those guys in, got them out. I think that made a big difference in the offense. Starting off a little bit sluggish last week, but today came out, looked better before the defense sort of came back in the scrimmage a little bit.
Yeah, and the running game continues to be very impressive. Josh Heupel did note that Deshaun Bishop is going to miss a couple of months. He banged up his ankle in the first scrimmage last week. Did note that Tyree Weathersby, a freshman defensive lineman, he's going to miss the entire season due to injury as well. But that running back room is still in plenty enough shape and kind of allowed the younger guys to get more of the bulk of the work today. Cam Seldon was working with the ones and continues to impress. I know everybody's talking about Jalen Wright and Jabari Small, Dylan Sampson. They look good as well, but Cam Seldon continues to impress when he gets opportunities.
Yeah, and Seldon was a guy I think had a good spring. I think it'll be interesting to hear. I think we're going to talk to Jerry Mack later this week. Just talk about the growth Seldon had over the summer mentally, because that was obviously his biggest issue. Physically, he looks awesome. He looks like he wanted an SEC running back to look, but hadn't really played the position since like 8th grade, so it was all new to him. But it sounds like he's making some good progress, and Josh Heupel raved about Jalen Wright again as well. I think he's poised for a big season. We've said it before. I think he had a good scrimmage today and has continued to have a good camp after a really good offseason, and he seems really dialed in going into his junior year.
Yes, and on the defensive side of the ball, Josh Heupel said the offense got out to a fast start, and then the defense kind of evened things out midway through, and then they had like an overtime period of sorts, and that's kind of when the defense really took off and made a lot of plays, looked really good, he said. And it starts with that front seven, and kind of the group that was raved on today was that linebacker room, and especially the freshman Arion Carter, Jeremiah Thielander. They continue to be very impressive. Jeremiah Thielander had an interception today towards the end, and kind of like Cam Seldon, Thielander's maybe not talked about as much, but when he gets opportunities, he's making the most of them as well.
Yeah, he's probably going to be this year's Elijah Herring on special teams. He's going to be on every unit there, and he's probably going to knock some heads. So that's a guy that looks like he has a bright future, as does Arion Carter, who has continued to, we've heard so many good things about really since when he got here. But Josh Heupel was complimentary of the defense getting off the field on third down. I think he seems pretty pleased with how the pass rush has looked. Maybe not as much today, but for the majority of camp, he likes how they've kind of grown there. And he feels like they obviously got a lot more depth, as we touched on at linebacker and in the secondary, although they're a little bit banged up in that group right now and still doing some mixing and matching about who's in their best lineup out there.
Yeah, and with the secondary, there was a lot of shuffling around today because it is pretty banged up right now.
Yeah, Wesley Walker and Jermaine McDonald I think are getting close, but didn't scrimmage today. I think Kamal Haddon got banged up a little bit at the end of yesterday, so he didn't go today either. And there's a couple other guys. Christian Charles has been sort of missing. Jordan Thomas as well. So those are some guys that they're missing there, and Tennessee's having to piece it together with some guys. But fortunately, they have some older guys that this is their third year in the system. The Brandon Turnages, the Warren Burrells, they can sort of play different spots and play multiple positions. So they're trying to move some of those guys around and see what they got, and that's a benefit of having better depth and being able to find your best lineup in different ways.
Yeah, and Josh Heupel said there's no doubt more depth at linebacker and in the secondary this fall camp. So we've got plenty of coverage of Tennessee's second scrimmage of camp up at the site at Go Vols 24/7, and we'll continue to do so. Tennessee has an off day tomorrow, and they will be back on the practice field on Friday and Saturday, and we, of course, will have plenty of coverage of it. For Patrick Brown, I'm Ben McKee.